What shirt is that?
It's this brand called Blue Boy. It's this let me show it. I love this image.
Mm.
Um, but this guy, he's I want to say the brand is based out of like California, but um his brother plays in the NFL for the Buffalo Bills right now. Stephon Diggs. It's
Oh
his
shit.
brother, and yeah, his brand is tough though. I love
That's
it.
lit. That's lit. So I wanted to start with a question. What is purpose and what is your purpose?
Oh, right off the bat. What is purpose? I don't know. That's tricky though. Like, I remember I messaged you. I texted you a word I came across. I want to say it's pronounced apatheism, something like that. Which is sort of like the idea that like you have an understanding that there's a God out there, but you just don't care, right? Like you don't have a relation, you don't believe or care for the relations of God and life or God and morals or whatever the case may be, right? And so I think a lot of times when people have purpose or something like that, it's like those religious people. For unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, I'm not like religious, so like I don't know. Purpose to me is like as like self-fulfilled or self-defined, right? Like if I'm gonna have purpose, it's whatever I deem worthy to be my purpose, right? Like it's no like inherent purpose, I
Hmm.
believe. Um, and so wait, what was the second part you said? What is
Then
purpose
what
and
is
what is
your
my purpose?
purpose? Yeah.
What is my purpose? I honestly don't even feel like I haven't given myself one, right? Like I haven't defined a purpose for myself. Like I'm honestly living life on this sort of like autopilot as far
Mhm.
as like um what to do or what I need to do or what I should do, right? Like it's just every day I wake up and just randomly choose decisions based off of whatever
Hmm.
circumstances populates or come up.
Hmm. And has that always how you been, or have you had purpose in the past you felt? Because have you been religious ever?
Yeah, so growing up, I grew up Christian. Of course, like, growing up as a kid, you kind of have to follow suit for whatever your parent kind of believes in at that point in time. And have a God that I have a father figure in my life that I recognize as like my God dad. I feel like in the South, like God dads are like very popular. And so like he's not like legally my God dad, but I just recognize him as that because like he's a pastor, he's been in church.
Uh-huh.
He baptized me before as well. So I've been baptized twice in my life. Once when I was like a kid, and next time when I was like a teenager, when I sort of made the decision for myself. I think like growing up, um, I sort of just like adopted whatever purpose people gave for me, right? Like the idea that like you need to go to school, you need to be successful, right? Successful in the sense of like academia, and then also just career wise. Successful careers was also defined for me, and so like fast forward to now, right? I'm in this point where like I'm seemingly successful, right? Like I have a really great job working in operations. Um,
Are you not teaching
I'm in
anymore?
grad school. No, no. So when I moved to Utah, I accepted a job in operations management
Wait,
with
you're in Utah?
Amazon. Yeah,
You
Salt
already
Lake
told me all
City.
this, but bro, I be forgetting shit. I forget shit about my own life, so it's like,
No, you
yeah.
good.
So is DJ in Utah too?
Yeah, DJ is in Utah too. So DJ was already in Utah. And then I ended up moving here. I had like five preferences to choose from when I got hired. Utah was one of the ones I chose because DJ was here. And the other one was like Seattle, Tennessee, Georgia, and then Baltimore was my other option. It was my other preference.
Mm.
But Utah offered the most money, and they also gave me an offer the quickest as well. And so I decided to come here. And I mean, it's cool. I don't know anybody other than DJ for real, for real.
Hmm.
So it's it gets a little just, I guess, monotone throughout the days, like just the same thing every week. But I'm adjusting though, especially to my work schedule and to in my personal life.
Yeah. Where you at in Utah?
Salt Lake City.
Okay, dope. You know where Ogden is?
Yeah, that's what DJ. You working all day, right? I think yeah, DJ works at my Ogden. I think that's where he lived prior to, though.
Oh, for sure.
I'm
That's
not
where I
sure,
went to
but yeah,
rehab, and that shit was beautiful, bro. Like that shit
bro,
was pretty. Utah
beautiful.
is like Utah's. I feel like people avoid it because of the Mormons and shit, but like it's a very beautiful state. Like,
Yeah, I want to say honestly, like since I've been here, I guess maybe because I'm in Salt Lake City, it's a little bit more diverse, but like you don't really necessarily like notice like the Mormon culture or like the Mormon footprint unless you're like paying attention to things that happen sort of behind the scenes, right? Like if you go into a coffee shop, all the coffee mugs are turned upside down. I guess like Mormons don't really drink coffee. I don't know how true that is. I don't know how factual that is. I
yeah,
never fact checked it, but somebody I think somebody I met here mentioned that. Also, like where I work in Amazon, like so I'm part of an operation management team, and I have like senior ops above me. Everybody that's in senior ops is just like a white Mormon male. So I mean, it's they definitely have like heavy influence for sure, but like
yeah.
you don't like just in the day-to-day scene, you don't really necessarily notice it.
Yeah, bro, Mormons. I was telling my coworker today who was Mormon and actually went on mission and stuff, and I was like, bro, Mormons be like secret, like you don't really be knowing what they're doing and
Yeah.
stuff, and like they just keep their like religion to themselves, and then in real life they're like really great people.
Yeah.
Like I
No, they're
remember,
cool.
bro, I was in rehab and there were a lot of Mormons that worked there, but they didn't like throw it on you or anything like a lot of say Christians might or other religions. But then when I asked like about their religion and stuff, like they were saying stuff about like celestial realms and like angels and stuff that I was like, bro, I
Yeah.
vibe with this. Like to say
Yeah, I know.
like this is kind of cool. Like and I feel the same way. Like but yeah, they got some whack shit though going on for I mean most religion I feel is a little twacked. Like not
Yeah.
fully in the truth. But yeah, I get my next question, which might not be a good question for you because you basically said you don't feel there is a purpose. But I took your answer as like my purpose is to make my own purpose, like to create
Right.
meaning and create my own purpose. So what would your advice be to other people in finding that purpose or that meaning in life and their own meaning or creating that meaning for themselves?
Um I won't say I have like good advice, right? But if I was
I think you
to,
do. I think you do.
if I was, so wait, give me a second, right?
Yeah.
So if I was to drink the rest of this wine, I think I will offer the advice. Well, I guess only you have to drink the rest of it, right? Because it's something I want to talk to you about, right? Because when I clicked on your website,
Uh-huh.
you had you put like a quote up there. I'm not sure if it was like your personal written or something that you grabbed from somewhere,
Probably
but it
my
was
own thing. I
yeah, it
think
was
we'll see.
the I can't say it verbatim, but it was just about the idea of like I haven't lost my mind. I'm trying to find it.
I haven't lost my mind. The marbles have been lost for some time. Now I'm reconnecting with them like a pantomime.
Yeah, I think the idea of losing your mind, like more people honestly needs to lose their mind, right?
Hmm.
Because I feel like, and like I said, this could be really bad advice, right? But like when it comes to losing your mind, though, right? Like it's been so many conversations I've been listening to about like the idea of people who just quote unquote go crazy, right? Like I think the idea of like quote unquote losing your mind or going crazy, it's been ostracized in a way that it shouldn't have, right? Like inherently, or I think naturally, right? Like it's sort of supposed to happen with the way that we are right now, right? Or I won't say we, right? But the way that like my life is going, right? Like there's been a couple times I like lost my mind, right? But I
Yeah.
like completely detached myself from like any kind of social interactions or whatever. So a lot of people wouldn't really notice it, right? But like in those moments though, is like when you sort of just like is forced to like deep dive in a way. Like you're forced to get to know yourself. Because like I feel like when you lose your mind, it's because like you just people have like we just been trying so hard
Hmm.
to like be in society.
Hmm.
Which society itself is just not a natural thing, right? Like it's not natural to get up and commit yourself to whatever these whatever these purposeless jobs that we have, right? Like I get up every day and I build bridges, which is basically like reports for Amazon on why their operations are not efficient enough, so they can be a faster or more efficient company, right? Like that don't matter, but I adopt that, right? Like I adopt that idea, I adopt the mission of that job, and it weighs on me, right? Like every day I go in, it sort of weighs on me. By the end of the day, I'm like, why am I doing this, right? And so like not to not to branch off from the point too much, but like I feel like it makes sense for people to lose their mind and more people need to, right? Because it just detached them from what they're like from what we have just been trying to be this
Mm,
entire time, rather than what we want, what we should be, or what we are essentially,
mm.
right? Like I don't know. I feel like you have a lot. I've come across a lot of people, right? Like I've been in this like dating phase, right? And it's been
A
a
baby.
very strange, huh?
I said, "Atta baby."
Yeah, I've been in this like dating phase and like it be strange talking to some people, right? Because they speak in a way as if they don't have a choice, right? Like this one person I ran into and we was having a conversation. It was talking about how I guess they're into like finance, right? They're not really into finance though, right?
Yeah.
Like their dad is like this big finance guy. And so they want to like impress their dad or prove themselves to their dad or whatever. So they adopted this idea that they want to be in finance. And that girl is losing her mind trying to impress her dad, right? Because
Mm.
it's just that whole. Okay, I'm going on like a little ramble, but like
Go for it.
it's just like I feel like more people should lose their mind though. Like
Mm.
lose your mind, be in that space. It's very dark though, right? Like I'm not gonna say like it's just like this therapeutic kind of phase or whatever, right? Because it's definitely very dark. It's very scary. Like it's a moment in time where like you just don't know what'll happen. But if you go and get the right support and the right help, I feel like it can do a lot of great work for somebody's like self in
Mm.
general, their identity. Because I feel like along the way, like we lose our identity because somehow we're kind of forced to in a way.
Yeah, bro. I can say from my experience, like, because I lost my mind 100% last summer, and I don't know how much I've talked to you about like what happened to me and that whole experience, but like it for sure is the single most impactful thing in my entire life, like in a good way. And uh, it took some time to like see it that way because for the first like 8 months coming out of I was like in hell, bro, and like the
Yeah,
experience itself was hell, but like it's funny you talk about like how society puts you into this box, so to speak, and you kind of have to lose your mind to get out of that box, bro. Like I remember there were nights in the mental hospital that I would just like I was talking to this girl like during the day and I was like, yeah, bro, we should be able to be naked. Like it's just our body, like whatever. And she's like, just get naked then. I was like, all right. So then like that night I just woke up in the middle of the night and like I just remember like skipping up and down the halls naked, like having fun. And I remember
yeah,
she like peeked out and was like gave me a peace sign. I was like, it was an affirmation, like keep going. So I kept doing it. And then all the workers freak out and they come and like pin me against the wall and shit. And I'm like
yeah,
start speaking in tongues and shit. And then like I remember there was a moment I was against the wall and like I was yelling in tongues basically and an African guy there who was like from Africa started speaking in his native tongue and it like snapped me out of it. Like I didn't understand what he said, but it like snapped me out of it to be like, okay, someone understands. But it's still like fucked because I'm like, bro, if I'm in a hospital in a mental hospital, I should be able to be naked and just let me skip up and down. Like they put me in a
yeah,
lockbox after that and then like locked me in the box, which made me go even crazier. And like yeah, bro, the whole I could write a book on my experience just in those 2 weeks, but like I lost my mark. When I was manic, like leading up to that moment, I was manic and like posting a bunch of stuff on social media you'd seen, like writing in code and shit. And
yeah,
um like a lot of good stuff did come out of me, like in my journal, like writing. But the thing, it's just funny because it was like that line that I have on the front of my page, the marbles have been lost for some time. Like in my head at that time, I was not losing my mind. Um, but I was how society defines it. And so like when I see a schizophrenic person like on the streets yelling, like a lot of times they're yelling truth. Like they're yelling about like the government and controlling us and all this stuff. Like what they're saying is true. And
Yeah.
it's important, I feel, for us to experience those things. And like you say, like it's important for someone to lose their mind, like to go through that. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows, but like it can regather yourself afterwards in a way that you weren't gathered, except for when we
Right.
were like a 5-year-old kid, having fun in nature. Like that's
Oh,
our
the
truth.
innocence,
Like,
man.
yeah, like so I do agree with you on that. Like, bro, you need a wake up call. Like a lot of people do. Like, and that's where I think psychedelics can be cool, is like you kind of get that wake up call in a day. And for
Yeah.
me, like I had many of those, but every time I did a psychedelic, honestly, like before the mental hospital, the message was like, stop doing drugs. Like,
Yeah.
and I remember the first time I felt that was like sophomore year at Tennessee. When I was living with Trey and Dart. I don't know if you ever met Dart.
I'm not. I probably seen him around if he was at Tennessee for sure, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
But I was living with him and then a guy from Atlanta, and I remember like Trey was gone that day or something. They were all gone, so I did acid, and I like walked around campus and I had a great day. It was like my one of my best acid trips. And I remember laying in my bed or laying on the ground in my room at the end of the day and was listening to acid rap by chance. And like I just felt the message from Yahweh. I like to say Yahweh instead of God, because like God is like a box, I feel like, whereas Yahweh
Yeah.
is like more flowy, and
Yeah.
his true name. And I felt a message saying like stop doing drugs, and it's like still taking me to this day. Like I still smoke cigarettes, and
Yeah.
I'm like trying to stop smoking weed type shit. But it's just funny to me when like we get these messages and stuff, or like we'll write something. Like I look at my old writings and I'm like, bro, why didn't you listen then? Like to what your
Yeah.
writing said. Like, uh,
Yeah.
so I guess that kind of leads into a question like, how have you been with like your intuition and feeling like, it sounds like you're really diving into your intuition because you just wake up and do what you feel, which I feel
Mhm.
is like what we should do. Obviously we live in a society that some structure is needed, and writing out your goals and stuff is like helpful. um I forget the question, but basically like how have you been, what's your relationship like with your intuition, your heart, like, and what your heart calls you to do, and then your mind and your ego kind of fighting that truth, if that makes sense, in that way.
Yeah. I will say, like, when I say I wake up and kind of do, I think I said I wake up and kind of make decisions based off the circumstances, and like, it's never decisions that I just want to make, right? Like, I wake up and I go to work, come home, go to sleep, eat, things like that. Like, those are like things that I just have to do in the day, but it's not necessarily things that I want to do. I think that's why I struggle at. Like, I can't even say the last time like I can recognize where like I had a calling or like a push or pulse for my intuition, right? Like it's
Mm.
just I wake up and I'm living in society, which is like very, very tough for me right now. Like that's why I'm kind of struggling at. Yeah, like just waking up, going to work, and like I'm working a job, like right, like the job I'm working, like I said, like it's ideally successful on surface level, right? But it's not what you want to do. Like it's personally, it's not successful, right? Like if I'm talking to a friend and I'm like, yeah, this week at work has just been tough for me. It's just like that I get the common response of like, oh, the money is good though. It's like I mean, I just respond in like the typical way of just like, yeah, that's for sure or whatever, right? Um, but it's not fun, right? Like it's not enjoyable. It's not what I want. But also, it's like what I want would just contradict um a it would sort of contradict a like efficient life in society, right? Like, 'cause, I mean, we have to make money right now. We have to um be able to cover bills, and like when you increase your income, of course, you kind of just sort of increase your bills, and so it's just like this constant fluctuation of I don't know. It's just a constant fluctuation of economics, right? Like I'm going up in the economic ladder, but I'm also just raising the standards of how much money I need to make as well. right? Like, because the bills that I tackle myself. Like the place I live in, I mean, I love this spot, right? Like, it's a beautiful spot. It's really cool. It's in downtown Salt Lake City. Like I can literally just walk to the Utah Jazz Stadium if I wanted to. So like it's cool, it's convenient. But for some reason, some part of me is just still very, very dissatisfied.
Mm.
And I mean, of course I know why, right? Because I'm not doing anything that I really want to do. Right. Like
What
I
would
integrate.
your dream, like if you had a dream life, like take money out of it, like explain your dream life, and if you could make money doing that, what would that look like?
I have no idea, right? Like I know, I know I love to play video games. I love getting dressed and being fly. Like I love those things, but I don't want to make a career out of those things either, right? Like I wouldn't want to monetize those things. It gets very, very strange when you start monetizing things. Like I was listening to this conversation recently. It was people talking about like children that is in like children that's famous essentially. Especially right now with like children that's like in on YouTube and they're like very famous on YouTube and stuff like that, and like their parents run their account. It's been like an ad that was passed right now because of abuse for children that was like YouTube. What is social? What is the term? Is it social influencers?
Yeah,
Influencers, right?
influencer.
Um, children that are like quote unquote influencers, like their parents have been like abusing them, or it's been certain situations where they're being abused by their parents and stuff like that. But they kept talking about, and they were speaking about the idea of like this entire child's development is intervened, right? Like it's tainted because now, like even like the birthday gifts they get are like endorsements essentially, right? So like say for instance, Nike sent me a shoebox. Um, if I was a kid, Nike sent me a shoebox, my parent will record me opening it and as if this was just like a thoughtful gift, a gift that I just want or whatever. But it's just an endorsement, right? They're getting paid for that. It's a sponsorship, a commercial almost like now even their birthdays are commercials and stuff like that. And it's just this idea that like I don't know, monetizing things make it a very, very strange situation.
What if the goal wasn't to monetize? Like, for example, as you were talking, I was just like, I could see you being a streamer, like playing video games and talking to people. So, like, what if you did that, not with the goal of monetizing it, but like maybe money would come type shit? You know, do you think that would be detached enough that you would be okay with getting money for just doing what you love type shit? Or,
yeah, so like if it wasn't something that was like, I guess, for my living, right? Like if I got money for it just because people enjoy watch me doing it or whatever, right? But like if it was like a living thing and now I have to play video games for money, right? Like then that's what it's problem. But if it's just like I can hop on, stream, and I make like $75. I'm just throwing out a random number. I may make $75 for playing a game for 3 hours, right? Like I mean, that'll be cool. But then it's like, what's the purpose? Like I don't know. That's just it's so many variables to that because what if it's like a it gonna turn into a moment where like it's a day where like damn maybe let me hop on the game to like cover this DoorDash fee or whatever, right? Like it turns into something that's not like I just feel like when money gets involved, it can turn into something that's not necessarily fun anymore, enjoyable, a hobby, to necessarily something that's like a means to like some kind of value.
hmm.
Um, and so that's why I'm really afraid with like putting money towards the things that I love, or trying to make money off of the things that I love. Because I mean, I feel like if I love it, like I don't know, like mixing money with the things you love, I think historically has just been not a great idea.
Hmm. I feel that. I feel that. And I think where like society is shifting in a way that, money, like finances will be more integrated with us, where it's like not a issue, where it's like how much do you make, it's like I'm not telling you, you know, like where money
Yeah,
become, we realize the futility, I don't know if that's the right word, of money. Like yes, in this society we need money and shit, and having a lot of money is dope, but also it's like I don't know, my view of the future is like everyone has money, you know,
Yeah.
and so I'm hoping that it like the world will be a place where you just do what you love and the money will come because there's so much
Yeah.
money. Because in truth, bro, we have plenty of resources for kids across the globe and people to pursue their passions. It's just funneled into Jeff Bezos or the elites and stuff. I'm not even gonna say Jeff Bezos because like he was self-made type shit. Like Amazon's
No,
awesome.
say Jeff Bezos, bro. It's not awesome. I think it's awesome on the outside looking in, but like, bro, like let's think about this, right? Though, because now I work in operations, like I legit build the reports on like you know just trying to make it more efficient and stuff, right? But like, let's say like you know, I think the entire world appreciate the convenience of now getting their items within hours now, right? Like it's like same day delivery now. Like you can literally order something to be on your doorstep by like 5 hours, right? That sounds amazing. But like on the other side of that, there are people who have to package those items, right? And so now the expectations are like yeah, the expectations that is now placed on them is like, yo, these items gotta be packed out like
Mm,
almost instantly, right? So like those that are like working in like Amazon fulfillment centers, right? Like first of all, they already work 10 hours a day, right? Like they
mm-hmm.
work 10 hours a day, 10-hour shift, 4 to 5 days a week, depending on your schedule. Um, but with this same day shipping and a lot of these other priority items that like needs to be met, they push this what is known as MET, which is mandatory extra time. That is like insane. When I first heard that, like I
What
was
is
like,
it?
mandatory extra time.
Like
Like,
not you don't get paid overtime?
no, no, no. So you get paid, but you have to work this extra day, right? Like you have to. It's mandatory you work this extra time if you are an employee of Amazon. Those who are like in the food, like if you're an hourly wage employee of Amazon, like you get MET, mandatory extra time, right? I mean, you
Mm,
get paid, but like, bro, that's another shift that is 10 hours, right? And then it's different types of MET shifts, right? Like you got an MET shift where it's like it adds on another extra hour as well. So it's like 5 days of 11 hours working, just constantly
Jesus.
packing, bro. Like, dog, that is crazy, bro. Like to like see that in person, like people just packing and pushing. Like, yo, it's I don't know. It's not fun to see. It's not fun to tell somebody they have an MET shift on a Thursday, right? Where like say for instance, their kid probably had some kind of event where they now can't even attend, right?
Mm.
Because if you try to cancel the MBT shift, it goes against Amazon policy. I mean, it's exemptions to it for sure. But even with the exemptions, you have to make up for it, right? Like you have to add on this next shift, whatever. Like it's a very, very I don't know,
It's
but it's
draining.
convenient. It's convenient for the world, though, right? Like
Yeah.
it's nice to get your toothbrush within 5 hours or whatever.
No, I feel that. There's definitely downsides. I personally am glad. Well, I don't know because like I don't like that at all. And like, bro, I don't need the shit I ordered. Like if I need that shit now, I want there to be a local store I can go get it, And like
Right. Yeah.
uh yeah, I think anyways, enough of Amazon. Because we could just, rant about Amazon, but like that's bad energy. But
No,
I
for sure, for sure.
another question I had was, and mind you, all these questions were Trey's questions because
Yeah.
I was like at work and I was like, bro, I haven't prepared at all, and not I knew that like not preparing we would still have a great combo, but I
Yeah.
was like, Trey, give me some juice, and he gave me some good stuff. So, what would
Yeah.
you say? There's two questions. I'll ask. I'll ask this one first. What single decision or up to three decisions have been the single or triple most impactful decisions you've made in your life? And that could be anything from breaking up with a chick or dating a chick to like moving to Tennessee to, moving to Utah, or even when you were 5 doing some shit at school that like, it could be
Yeah.
anything, but what would you say the single most, or if you can't pick one, the up to 3 most?
I would say for sure probably running track.
Mm,
Like it seems so simple or whatever, but like, like the opportunities that came from that, like, was just like massive, right? Like it literally derailed where my life was supposed or was going at that point in time. Like just literally shifted it crazy, right? Like it was because prior to I wasn't doing sports. Like I mean I always loved sports. I feel like I was always athletic. Like I was just a lazy fucking kid. And like I just chose not to do anything but play video games at that point in time. But it was crazy how I entered track though, right? Like I think my no, not even I think my history teacher kind of announced that she would be the track and field coach. I didn't even know my school had a track and field team. But she announced she'd be track and field coach. And it was just one day after school. I think I like missed the bus or some shit like that, right? Like, and it was the same day they was holding track meet. I was like, I might as well go, right? Like, I always knew I was fast, right? Like, I was a fast kid. Like, that was like the known thing about me from like close friends and family. And so I went out there and like, I went to the track meet, started running track, and like, I got the opportunity to go to college because prior to I definitely was not going to go to college if I didn't run track, right? Like, I got the opportunity to go to college, met like great friends, right? Like, my idea of what a friend was like, like changed crazy with this opportunity with track, right? Like, I met people who are so genuine and so kind, but prior to like in high school and stuff like that, like I think it kind of sucks for people who don't get the opportunity of like going to college or I'm gonna say college specifically, but I know there's other spaces like it. But like in high school, you're sort of trapped in your with social opportunities, right? You're sort of trapped with just like who is around you. And so
mm,
like you don't really have the opportunity to like choose your friends or choose the people that you get close to or whatever. Because like you typically, at least at my high school or middle school or whatever, you're typically in the same class with the same people all day. And so like you all just like sort of forcefully grow close to each other.
mm.
But then when I went to college and like it's this massive social opportunity where like you can get to know whoever the fuck you want to.
Yeah, facts.
And it's like, bro, like the people that I came across, like you, Lenny, DJ, like all the people, even like the school I
Bro,
was
we had
at
a good
prior
group,
to,
honestly.
bro, it was amazing, dog.
Yeah.
At not one moment did I not enjoy a day at Tennessee, bro. Like
Mm,
it was, it was like a very, very great time. I love track for that purpose, specifically. But then also just like, giving me opportunities as far as career, getting a degree and stuff like that as well was also
mm.
good too. Like so track and field for sure was a great decision. Another decision. Hmm. I think that's the like one that came to the top of mind.
Well, it sounds like the one.
Yeah, no,
It
that
sounds
was
like the
amazing
one.
though.
Mine, bro, I would say decision that changed my life the most was going to Tennessee, like for sure,
Yeah,
because I'd love for you and DJ to come visit Davis because like my shit's a bubble. Like the town I'm in is a bubble. We're
yeah,
diverse, like we have diversity, but it's not really diverse in terms of like experience, if that makes sense. Like everyone's dad is a professor or a doctor or a lawyer. Like everyone's got money for the most part. That's not entirely true. We got like low income apartments right behind my house type shit. So like there are lower
yeah,
income families, but like you get the experience of privilege basically from my town. Like I feel like obviously I'm like a cis straight white male type shit. So I have the most privilege, but I'm from Davis too. So it's like even more like it's just a bubble, bro. And like I wanted to go somewhere that would be a new experience. Like I've always tried to seek out new experiences and stuff, and like I didn't realize the impact Tennessee would have on me. But bro, like
yeah,
I remember I'm gonna tell this story because, and I probably already told you this story maybe at some point. But like they're the only the only group that we didn't really have in Davis was black people, honestly. Like there's not very many black people in Davis. There's a lot more now. A lot of like African immigrants are coming. But
Yeah,
I was ignorant as fuck and like in high key racist, not in my heart. Like I didn't view other as like different, you know,
mhm,
but like ingrained bias I had became very apparent when I went to Tennessee because like obviously my teammates. And I remember one day I was in Brown. This is like 3 weeks into school, and I remember like Ari was there and DJ and some other guys, and like I felt uncomfortable, and becoming aware of the fact that I felt uncomfortable, I was like uncomfortable with that. Like I was more
yeah,
uncomfortable with the fact that I was uncomfortable. I'm like, bro, what the fuck? And that in and of itself was like, I mean, a whole process. Till to this day, I'm unraveling like bias, but like that was a wake up call for me when I went to Tennessee of like, bro, you got some shit you got to work out because like that's not
yeah,
okay, you know. And like, I
yeah,
remember one time too, like Ari would probably be a better person to tell a story, but I remember we were all in London truck like freshman year, and Ari said some shit like "fuck all white people" or something like that, and I like flipped out on him. Like I got hella mad and stuff, and you know, I was just like, because we were a little drunk and like, you know, my pride got in the way of like not realizing like, bro, he's got reason to say that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you know, he's not coming at you personally. Like he's just saying that. And my dumbass was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, just stupid, bro. So like going to Tennessee was a huge like experience for me. Just that in and of itself, like being on the track team, but also being in the South and realizing like, oh, it's different for like people of color in the South than it is back in Davis, you know, like
yeah,
and being in the South and realizing like, oh bro, this shit's still like deeply rooted. And it's still deeply rooted in California, but in different ways than it is in the South, I feel like. And so that's something that like I've been very grateful for because like I know if I didn't do track in college and like just went to some school, I wouldn't have been exposed to different people and like a different culture in a way that like I'm very grateful I can understand in a way, you know, that I couldn't before. Um and just the South, like the way of life in the South is fucking sick. Like it's just less uptight, I feel like. Like in some ways it's more uptight, you know, conservative Christian type uptightness, but like in terms of like when you're out drinking a beer, there's not like, oh, I gotta make this appointment tomorrow, you know, tonight at whatever
yeah.
time. Like it's a little more lax in the South, and that was really cool for me. Um, and then I'll say my next question is, what's your proudest moment ever? I'll start with my answer because I'm talking and I'm just going. But
No, go ahead, go ahead.
my proudest moment, I think for myself, it's twofold. One is like going to rehab, like making that
Mm,
decision to go to rehab because that's the first time I really felt proud of myself because every time before any other success I had before that, I always was like, you know, I'm just smart because my dad's smart or my brother's hella smarter
yeah,
than me. So like I'm, you know, it's easy for me to do it on school. So like getting good grades and tests, I'm like, well, I took hella Adderall. So like how much of that
yeah,
was me type, it was all me, but uh I didn't feel proud of myself for successes. But like going to rehab, I was like, I remember Kim told me, she's like, I'm really proud of you. And it kind of stopped me in my tracks. And I was like, damn, that is something I should feel proud of. And so like I'd say going to rehab is my proudest moment. Because that was all me. Like, and it was the first time I really humbled myself, you know, because before that I was just doing drugs, doing my thing, and like kind of spewing out like bullshit. Like, you know, I was crazy in college and like it affected other people, especially my closer circle. Like, you know, they took on a lot for me. Um,
mm,
so it was like the first moment I really humbled myself to being like, I need help. And it's funny because like the night I decided to go to rehab, I was like off a two day bender on Adderall, like had taken hella Adderall or Vyvanse, and I was growing mushrooms at the time. I don't know if you remember. You might have been gone by then, but I was growing hella mushrooms in my closet, and I took like
yeah,
7 grams of mushrooms and like trying to seek out this like super big experience, you know, and all I felt was like a loving body hold me, and I just started crying because it was like telling me like you need help, bro. Like
yeah,
I just felt this love of like you need help, and you're not going to get this trip that you were hoping for eating all those mushrooms because I'm telling you right now you need to stop searching for something in these drugs type shit. So that's my proudest moment. The other one that like my dad would say is he's proud of me, but like I was thinking about today is just like how far I've come since last summer. Like,
mm,
because bro, I was like, bro, it was not chill. Like it was not chill
yeah,
at all. And coming out of that, I was like, I lost hope for life in a way that I've like always been very passionate and like hopeful of the future. And like for months coming out of the mental hospital, bro, I just like lost that hope and passion. And so like I would say I'm proud of where I'm at now because I feel like I'm in a place that I've never been before. But I also say I can't really say I'm proud because it wasn't on me, bro. Like
Yeah,
that was Yahweh for me. Like, and my family and my friends and people around me supporting me through that because like in that process I didn't want to do it. Like I wanted to fight it and whatnot. um so like my true proudest moment is going to rehab, and then my second one that I should be proud of is like how much progress I made, but I recognize that like bro, that was spirit, like that was other stuff too
yeah.
going on. So I ask you, what is your single most proud moment, or up to three?
Most proud moment. I honestly can't even think of one. Like, myself personally, I think I hold myself to like a very, very high standard. Or, I mean, I think I hold a lot of things to like a very, very high standard. So, like, I don't think I've met that standard yet personally, which is probably not a healthy trait for me to have, for sure not. Like, I think I need to recognize like things I've done that was like really, really, that should be really recognizable. Like, probably graduating from school. Um, I want like I was like athlete of the year at D2 before going to Tennessee, and like things like that that was like extremely notable, but for some reason I'm not proud of. Um, I do want to go back, revert back to like the previous question of like decision I made that was just like impactful though, right? It was two of them. One of them was writing. Like
Mm.
getting into writing was really big for me. I remember you introduced like the method of like channeling, which I guess like typically was something that I was already like doing, but like to put a word to it was like very beneficial as well as too. So like using writing as a method to like understand myself more because that's something I kind of struggle with. Like identity was like a really, really big thing for me. I mean, still now, right? Like I'm still kind of having that battle, but like I have a way better understanding of myself now than I did like 3, 4 years ago or whatever.
Mm.
Um, and then also, to be honest, like doing drugs was like a very impactful thing for me. Like, which is sort of, I guess, not necessarily reverse of what you was talking about, but or the opposite of what you was talking about, but it's just like from college on back, right? Like I really denounced drugs. Like I thought drugs was like a very demonic thing to do. Like
In college you thought this, or
yeah,
before
so
college?
in college and when I was younger, like all the way up to that point, right? Like I never did a drug. I always thought it was the most demonic thing you can do, right? Like maybe it was like the scares that they used to give us in middle school with like these different programs that was like drug free programs or whatever. But like
Or
I
the
always
fact
thought
that
it was
like drugs can be terrible for you, like
yeah,
a
for
real
sure.
worry, like a real fear.
No, for sure.
uh but yeah, keep going.
No, for sure though, right? Like I mean, it's definitely something to be worrisome of. But I will say, like, when I left college, like, I entered this like very depressive state. Like, my senior year is when it started, right? But like, it was like a year or two outside of college. It was 2 years outside of college. I had like this very depressive state. Like, I was just so down bad. Um, I think it's weird too, because like with social media, it almost seems like you're living like this sort of great or like your life is just okay right now, right? Like 'cause when you post, people just see you in that moment, right? They don't see what happened prior to, what happens out there. It's just that moment, and like it's fair to take that moment and like kind of project what's going on in somebody's life, right? But like I was in such a down state and I got high for the first time. I went back to Tennessee to hang out with like Jalen and Daryl, and we like they had edibles, and I took one. I think I took like a piece of one. And I was so ignorant on edibles and drugs or whatever, right? And I was like, this is not doing anything, so I ate another one, and then I ate another one, and so like it was like hours later, right? Like it was like the coolest experience to me, right? Like it was hours later. I'm high as shit, and I'm thinking like time itself is just like fucking with my head, right? Like I feel like I was repeating the same moment over and over and over and over again, which I
Mm,
was, right? I remember like the next day they telling me like you just kept saying the same, like you kept repeating the same thing over and over again, like
uh-huh.
the same exact conversation over and over again, like 5 different times until eventually I just like passed out. And like it was this, but it was like such a cool experience to me because it was so taboo, right? Like I've always demonetized drugs, and like the first time I did it, I was like, this is what people felt like. It was like mind blowing. And so I started to venture into it more. Like I started doing shrooms and acid and stuff like that. And like my first shrooms trip, I did it in the botanical gardens. And like it was it was like life altering almost. Like it didn't change my philosophy or anything like that, right? Like it was just life altering to the fact that like you can really experience life in different ways because of these like drugs or whatever, these chemicals, however you want to put it, right? You can experience life in different ways. When you abuse it, of course, or like when it gets abused or used in like whatever kind of way, like it can definitely be a very, very dangerous path to go on. But me personally, I would like to argue that there's a healthy way. I want to argue that there is a healthy way to use
Bro,
drugs. Do
there
I know that
is.
healthy way?
There
Yeah, for
is.
sure, for
Like,
sure.
that's my thing. Because another big moment for me, or like one of the most impactful things, is choosing to do drugs. Because I
Hmm.
was thinking, like, would I be here without drugs? It's like no shot. And like, I'm proud of who I am today and like my ability to connect with other humans in a way, like with addiction and stuff. But like you say, like, I do think there was maybe a better way to do it. Like,
Yeah,
by not, for me, it's like if you're trying to get something out of that drug, that, obviously you do shrooms to get something out of it, but like I think you can take shrooms with like an open heart of like whatever is to be experienced, I will experience. Versus
right.
like me, what and a lot of addicts like chasing a dragon, so to speak. Like they're chasing something that they don't have when they're sober. So like I think
Yeah,
you're 100% right in that there is a quote healthy there's a balanced way to open your mind up to new realities while also realizing the truth of like sobriety is still like you're whole as you are
yeah,
sober. Like you don't need something else to be whole. Um, so I think yeah, that would be the balance for me at least is like your intent with the substance.
yeah,
And just unfortunately, like drugs are so powerful, especially like, Coke or Adderall or Xanax and stuff, like that lights up this pathway for people that's just like, I need that, whereas like
yeah.
if I were to recommend drugs to anyone, it would only be like depending on who you are, like 100% MDMA. And then like if you're really feeling frisky, like mushrooms or maybe LSD. I like mushrooms more, but to each their own type shit. But like and
Yeah.
weed a little bit, but to me, weed also is like not necessary to open your mind in the way that like sometimes a shroom trip or like an MDMA experience, like you needed that experience, if that makes sense.
No, no, no. I'm following you.
Yeah. So like for that, and that's where I'm at personally, is like, well, for one, I'm at personally is knowing that the message for me has been clear to be sober. And like,
Yeah.
I falsely assumed that that meant I had to be sober for the rest of my life. But like Yahweh's been telling me recently, and I don't know if it's Yahweh directly or like whatever, or just my soul telling me, um, bro, you just need to be sober for a little bit and like regather
Yeah.
yourself and be set. And then like, of course you can do coke one night with your buddy or something, and like or do mushrooms, like I thought that going to rehab and being sober meant like I had to be sober for the rest of my life. And that's just like it's just silly because it's like, bro, we can do whatever the fuck we want. And like to think that
Yeah.
like because of who I am, I can't engage with something, it's like, nah. But where I'm at with weed too is like I might when I really stop taking weed, like I might never want to go back to weed just because like
Yeah.
the past couple years of smoking weed has been the same thing of just like, okay, you're getting high to fill the time, but you're not really getting much out of it. And another thing is like I used to use weed to like quote channel. I've kind of changed my wordage on that because it's like we're constantly channeling, like we're always channeling our soul and our energy. So like, but it is nice, like you said, like to change it from like just journaling, like free writing, to like, okay, now I'm like writing what comes up, type of thing.
Yeah,
um but I would get, I would get high to like channel and like write these things, and I've written really great stuff like high or on Adderall, bro. Some of my Adderall writing is like pretty great, I think.
yeah,
But I think, I fear doing that sober because I fear it not being real, like it, not, I fear my ability to have those things come out of me, if that makes sense, if I'm
yeah,
not twacked or like high, or and so yeah, that's what I'm kind of working through now, is like, because as I'm posting on my website and stuff, like old writings and stuff, I'm like, some of this stuff is pretty good, and like uh I fear that like I can't write that shit again, or stuff like that. But it's like, bro, if I look at my most recent writings in the past like 2 months, especially like prayers I've written that I haven't posted
yeah,
online, like they're the most impactful writing I've ever done, and it's been sober. So like it's silly for me to fear that I can't do those things sober. um
yeah,
but to go back to what you said about like realizing that like, oh, we can really experience life however we want, like I had that same day that I had that message of like stop doing drugs, sophomore year off acid, when I first hit, like when it first started coming up, I was in my apartment, and I just had an overwhelming like feeling of like, bro, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like this is sick. Like I can literally go to the quarry if I wanted to right now, or I could go walk around campus, or I could wank it. Like I can do whatever I
yeah,
want to. And like that's where I think drugs can be like pretty cool, is taking you outside of that like path that we've been set with society, to like realize, hey man, you get to create whatever life you want to do.
yeah.
um
No, for sure.
it's
I want to ask though,
yeah.
like when you say Yahweh, like what is that to you? Like
Mm.
who is that to you, right?
So I could go, okay, I could tell you the like actual what I feel and have seen visually, um, the actual structure of Yahweh, which is just the universe, the nature of the universe. Or I could also be more artistic and talk about like how it feels and how I feel with it. Uh,
Whichever way
I
you're
could do,
inclined to,
I'll do,
honestly.
yeah, I'll do both.
Okay, bet.
So, um, what the, sorry, my mom just like waved at me, and I don't know if she was just saying hi or, so one time I had, uh, so there was a night that I had taken a bunch of edibles, and I was sitting out on my rocker, and I was like staring at the moon, bro, and I was just like amazed by its beauty, so to speak. And then I asked the moon, I was like, "What are you?" Like a voice just in my head said, "What are you?" And I felt another voice in my voice, like it sounded like me, but it felt like a little out there. Was like, "Do you want to
Mm.
know?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then I like boom, like went to the moon and how it formed, and like felt how it formed, and then went to the sun and felt how it formed, and then like went to the universe and like how everything just happened at once, and we're in a
Mm.
process of reconnecting. But then like through, it was like maybe 5 minutes of I like closing my eyes and just feeling and like going through all those visuals. um and then I like at some point went outside of it all, and I
Yeah.
saw like, to me it's basically a cube, like a perfect cube, but it's to me it's a cube that has fundamental forces permeating it from two planes, like this and then like this. And after this is now years later, I can say like I feel those forces are gravity. So like gravity ripples basically, because I felt it as ripples, where like at one point in that cube it's more dense ripples, and then at another point it's more spaced out. And it felt like two lights going like this, and then two lights going like this. And then within that there were eight forces kind of acting as like electrons spinning around, creating what's
Mm.
inside the box. So like the box is like fundamental two forces. That to me is Yahweh, is like the fundamental fabric of reality that I feel is love through gravity. And then like those 8 forces are like fundamental natures of reality that all working in tandem together are creating this. And so
Yeah.
like within the box there were like 2 planes and like this, and on each plane permeating out like in 4 directions was, I don't know if you ever seen like a Mandelbrot dot zoom. It's like it's basically an infinite pattern. And so
Mhm.
it looks like a circle and like a smaller circle and a smaller one and like kind of
Yeah,
things.
okay, yeah.
And you can zoom on it forever. And so it was that pattern on the planes, like kind of like mirroring on these 2 planes, mirroring each other, and then on this plane mirroring each other. And all of physical reality is on those planes. And then beyond those planes, there's more like it's just more oceany energy of stuff, and that's where I feel like angels exist, or those types of beings like that are just energetic beings. And they're kind of in the cube, but they're not on our plane, like our physical plane. So like those 2
Mhm.
planes to me are like physical reality. And so to me Yahweh is that box. And his her what it's his, it's more masculine, like his role is to just permeate love throughout
Yeah.
all of it. And then within that, there are energetic beings that we can connect with, like channel an angel or archangel Metatron, all that stuff. Like, I think those are his like minions. And I've had other experiences of like something I wrote was like 5 within, 12 beyond.
Mhm.
It doesn't necessarily matter too much, but like those 12, I think the 4 fundamental light things and then the 8 things, those are like the wise elders, and like to me is what Elohim is. And so like from Yahweh comes Elohim, which is like our basically our fathers, mothers, or whatever, the Greek gods, whatever, are the
Mhm.
fundamental nature of our physical reality. And in between that, like us to Yahweh is like infinitely different permeations of shit. So like I've for a long time, like my whole life, I've tried to quote figure it out type of thing, and feeling that image of the box, like to me was figuring it out, because after that moment, like that night, I stopped trying so hard to like figure out what the nature of reality was, because I felt like I experienced it and was like, you're never gonna know truly. Like
Yeah.
what, that's my view of it as a human, but like I'm never gonna know until maybe we die what the truth is. Um, but then Yahweh for me, less like mechanical, is like the love that permeates every being and physical thing. Like even this chair has love in it because whoever made the chair put time into creating that chair. And like, so Yahweh allows, like it is the nature of what allows us to be seen, if that makes sense. Like without
Okay.
Yahweh, we would be just nothingness. Like because without that structure, that fabric, that reality of love, uh, we couldn't do the shit we do, or talk, have this conversation type shit. And
Mhm.
so for me, like I like the word Yahweh because like when I say God, people think of a man in the sky. It's like, bro, God doesn't give 2 fucks about man. Like God just is. Like Yahweh just
Yeah.
is our nature. Um, Yeah, I hope that answered the question.
No, for sure. Well, like, why I guess, like, I guess my whole struggle with the thing is, like, this idea of, like, feeling special to, like, a being like that or, like, an
Mm.
existence like that. Like, why would you think you get showed that? Not saying this in, like, a condescending or
Yeah,
malice way,
no,
but,
I
like, a
get
gen
you.
yeah.
I think I got shown that because of just my experience allowed me to see that. So like doing drugs for my whole life, and just my nature of wanting to figure it out, like through my whole life experiences led me to that point. But the thing is, like, I think everyone can see that. Like I
Mm,
think, I don't think, and this is where when I was crazy last summer, like I had this messiah complex and like thought that I was the chosen one, or like I thought it was about me. And it's like, bro, anything you can do, other people can do far better. Like,
yeah.
so I think I've had the privilege to not have barriers in my perception of what I can accomplish or what I can feel, what I can experience. And so I think I got there at, at some point, but like and that's where I kind of feel my purpose or my mission is to help others and allow others to see that for themselves, like to see
Yeah,
what I've seen. Cause bro, I've seen a lot of shit, and like I've been through a lot of shit, but like in a way that was always okay for it to be that way, and like
yeah,
for a lot of my like brothers and sisters like on this earth, it's not okay to be doing drugs and then get in a situation with their parent where they fight and get beat or something, like I've been allowed the privilege to experience what I have in a way that like I could go like this and say fuck all of you, I'm doing me, and like I'm gonna
mhm,
make these choices for myself without there being like real consequences. And so like if the simple answer to like why I seen that is just because like privilege, like I've been
yeah.
privileged to not fear like life and not fear my mind, and other people don't have that. But I do fully believe and know that like everyone else can experience anything I've experienced because we're human. Like we're human.
I think I think it's like is not like what you explained is strange, but the situation is that appeared in my head, right? Because like what you experience is like vastly separate from what I experienced,
Mm,
right? Like any idea of like when I was like in my phase of like going on trips like every week, like I would go on trip like once a week. But it was these moments where like I would like intentionally stargaze essentially. Where I would like watch the stars, and it was like 4 or 5 days straight. Like I went on a trip once, I stargazed, and then 4 to 5 days straight, I just while sober continued to stargaze, like
yeah.
listen to music and just stargaze. That was the same exact star in the same exact spot. I mean, honestly, I could have been making it up, right? But like, when you have just that feeling, like that's it, right? Like it was just that star in that spot every time, right? And
Like in those
when I,
5 days.
yeah, in those 5 days, like at the same point of night, I'll go out, stargaze. Well, I won't say the same point of night, but at night I'll go out, stargaze. I will look at this star, and it's like so bright. It was like very, very bright, right? Um, when I went on my trip. It was a point in time when I was sitting in the botanical garden, I was looking at my hand, and my hand was just like vibrating essentially, right? Like, well, it seemed like it vibrated, but I saw like separate hands essentially, like one over here, one over here. Like it was, I could see 3 hands total. Two of them was very faint, so I can tell that it was sort of just like some sort of like image that was just being produced or whatever. But in that moment, like they came together and it was just like my hand, but I stared at it. I stared at my hand for probably like an hour, bro. Like not even blinking, just stared at my hand, right? In that same moment, like later on seeing that star and seeing that star over and over again. And this idea that we're formed from stars, right? Like and this is a thought that kind of produced as you was talking, but like the idea that like the star that I saw, even though, stars explode and, atoms spread and forms from those stars, from the energy that comes from those stars, whatever the case may be, like, I'm not going to dive into the science of it, but, like the idea that that could have been a star that made me, or that could have been
Mm,
a star that created me, right? When I think of that idea of like being formed from a star, or whatever the case may be, and it's sort of a rant that's not connecting very well right now, but like it sort of just like denounced the idea of there being some sort of superficial being. Like I can't fathom the idea of like a god or like a superficial being or some sort of being like that, like Yahweh as you speak.
mm,
I can't fathom that. And like if I was to, right, like it'll be something that is so dramatic and it's not even a thought that's creative enough to like conceive it almost, right? Like I to like picture and describe what we will call a god, it just seems so undermining to me. Like,
mm-hmm.
because like if there was a god, this should be something that I will not be able to fathom until it's like right here in my face. And
Mm.
even if it appeared in my face, like to be able to explain it with like words, right? Because we create words. Like words was formed by us and words was formed by different cultures, and like there's a vast universe of words, but like those words was not created to explain a being that immense, you know? Like
100%. 100%. Everything you just said made 100% sense, and like it touches on like my issue with God and something that really caused like bad acid trips for me early on in college, because I grew up Christian and had this idea of a God like being a being. And when I took acid, I was like, bro, no, like there's no way. Like there's just no fucking way. And that's where what's helped me is like because it's two part, like I would rather someone, and not that I would rather anyone do anything. If I were to choose two things, I would pick the side of not believing in a God or anything and just fully focusing on self,
Mhm.
versus the side of a lot of religious people of like there's a being in the sky that's doing something. Because I think that is so false with what the truth is of whatever Yahweh is. Being a being in and of itself is like puts it into a box, like a container, because it's a being, but it's like it's beingness in and of itself. Like you are
Mhm.
God, I am God, that tree is God. But that sounds stupid because it's like Ye would say like I am a God. Like we're not a God, but we are, because like depending on
Right.
how you define God, like if you define it as a creator, then we're all gods, bro. We're all creating this shit together. And that's why I like Yahweh better, because it feels more wavy, and
Yeah.
like Yahweh is the fundamental fabric of what allows a star to make me. Because
Right.
you are right, Kwan, like you are everything. Like you are everything that has happened in the universe to some non-zero percentage has affected you into being you, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
like when you're looking at your hand and stuff and like with the star and it's like the star making me, it's like that's truth. Like did that particular star have a role physically in like sending the hydrogen atom that is part of you? It's very unlikely,
Right.
but that star's energy is part of the same Yahweh or whatever, God, whatever you want to say, just nature of reality that has allowed you to like become you. um
Right.
so yeah, I think but now the two part of that was like I do feel very strongly, and this is something I've seen in my life for a long time. I've had like lucky to experience God early on in my life, and like love and that, to know that there's something beyond me playing a role. Um, but I do think there is power, and this is like the first step of AA, and AA is super effective, is recognizing you are not in control in a way that like it is out of your hands. Like there is a level of your life that is out of your hands. And that's like a very freeing feeling to feel, that like I am supported, and like my life and my birth and my death was out of my hands. But in that space, I get to choose where I go with it. Like
Right.
I feel there's a plan, there's like Yahweh's plan for you, and that's like whatever it is, and like there's multiple derivations of it, and like nothing you do at any point takes you out of that, other than like realizing to come back to it. And like no matter what, you will come back to that path. And like I do think people die without fully aligning themselves with that path, but I feel like we are special individuals, and a lot of people our age, because we can, and like can soon too, like not, we're not going to be 80 and take mushrooms and be like, oh, this is the meaning of life and stuff. Like
Yeah.
we're kind of born in it already type shit. And so like um I do feel, and well, this isn't necessary to say, but like I do feel you are very special on like an energy level, like your soul level, in a way that makes me like very excited to see what you will do in the future, and like what lives you will touch in the future. And I would say that like the one thing that will hold you back is not accepting some powers beyond yourself, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I follow you. I follow you. I mean, it's like ultimately it's just hard to, right? Like, what kind of drove me away from Christianity is just the doubt, which was rightfully
Mm,
so. Like, the Christians I grew up around was like more radical than like Christians that like I befriend today, right? Like
Mm.
those are my friends today. And so like that doubt kind of detached me from Christianity or in religion and like this idea of superficial being in general. Because I mean, like I also watch anime, which is like a super dramatic, like sort of like creation within the TV realm or whatever. Like is but I don't know, man. Like either my mind is not creative enough to fathom a God at this point in time, or like even like the
No, I
concept
don't
of
think I don't think that at all. I think your mind is creative in a way that realizes that the typical versions of God is bullshit. Like,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're not creative. Like you're far more creative than me for sure. And like I think it's the limitation is like how society has led you to believe what God is. You know, and it's like the God is in you. Like I said, like it's not some
Yeah.
set, you say superficial, but it is official. Like I don't know if official's a word, but like it
No, I'm
is
following.
within yeah, like
Yeah.
it is innate. Like it's in us and it's all in us. Like maybe not the way it was for Jesus. Like I don't know, but I do think, and Jesus said this himself, like people will do far greater works than he did. And so like when people say Jesus was God like fully, I think we can be God fully in our lens, like in our
Yeah.
perspective. Like does that make sense?
No, no, I'm following you. But
Yeah.
a random thing that popped in my head, like, what if Jesus was just a guy going around doing shrooms or some shit, like LSD, bro?
Bro, like and this is my own opinion, and I think other some scholars share it, but like this is just my intuition. Like Jesus was doing mushrooms, and maybe he
Yeah, for
wasn't,
sure.
maybe he wasn't the one doing the mushrooms because maybe he like was born in a way that he didn't need to be outside because he just
Mm,
was it, like he was all of it. But I do 100% feel that like the Last Supper and breaking bread and like his flesh, all that stuff is mushrooms, bro. And like the
yeah,
story of manna, like manna in the Bible is that like the Israelites were like, I think they were fleeing Egypt or something like that. It doesn't matter. Basically, like they were hungry and it rained and then bread came up. I'm like, how fucking silly for like a 2,000-year-old text to feel it was important to say a story of like bread magically appearing so they ate. That's so silly. But to me, it's like a metaphor, like a lot of stories I feel are of it them being spiritually hungry because like
yeah,
our translation from Aramaic or Hebrew to now is like very off, in my opinion. Like or not off, but like we lose a lot. And so it's like to me, they were spiritually hungry and they prayed to God for sustenance, like spiritual sustenance. And it rained. And what happens after it rains? Mushrooms will pop out of the ground like that.
yeah,
And the
yeah,
description of it was they were delicate as frost. And like if you've ever touched a mushroom, it breaks in an instant.
yeah,
And so they ate those mushrooms and they experienced the shroom trip and were like, that is the flesh of God. Let's call it
yeah,
mana. And then they put it in a story to, knowing that with translate like passing it down, they will know, yeah, the truth there is mushrooms. After 2,000 years and after like Romans and other people just destroyed a lot of text and a lot of that translation, we view something like as powerful as like, hey, God gave us mushrooms to be spiritually fed and translate it to like,
yeah,
oh, their stomach was like hungry and they ate some bread that magically appeared. Well, I've never seen God like grow bread out of a ground.
yeah.
Like, you
No
know what I mean?
facts.
Like, so I think you're 100% right, bro. Like, I think Jesus was the OG shaman, like, but he wasn't because there were thousands of shamans before him. But like, I think the Last Supper was mushrooms and all that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But I was gonna say, yeah, it was all right. Before we dive too deep into that religious realm, did you have like another question that, or is that another question on the list?
Um, yes. If we could go like let's go all the way to like re-grounded in reality of what's your like motivation behind getting a master's and like what do you hope is will come of it.
My motivation, I don't know. I feel like my motivation is mostly the idea of like being successful and like what is being successful in society, right? Like, I had no ambition or no like inspiration to get an MBA. But I knew it'll make me money, right? So I was really invested into psychology. Like I love psychology. I love the idea of analyzing human behavior, decisions, and like kind of just that whole world of like how humans operate and why they operate that way, sort of. Like psychology has it's been a very, very intriguing subject to me since I was younger. Like I remember in middle school, I like had this friend whose sister was like a psychology major, and I grabbed her book, like it was one of her textbooks. And I sort of like stole it. Um, but like she wasn't in school anymore anyway, so it didn't really matter. But like I grabbed her textbook and I like took it home and I started reading it. And I think Sigmund Freud was like the first person that was introduced in the book. Or maybe William. Was it William? I don't know. It was one of those like famous radical psychologists or whatever. Um, and like it just blew my mind to just learn about psychology. I thought it was just super cool. But then as far as like when you relate psychology to like living like a successful economic life, like it's very hard. Like it's more difficult than other majors, I would say.
For sure.
Um, and so I chose the route to go to MBA. I have no I have no desire to learn about business administration or to be in it, but it makes money, and so like I'm in it. And so like that is, I think that's why it's hard for me. Like right now, I'm in one. I dropped two classes, and so now this semester I'm in one. So I may not graduate until like the end of spring now. Um, but like I don't know, like that is my only sole reasoning. It's just like it'll be economically economically successful at this point,
Mm.
like which is the only thing that I'm like reaching for at this point. Like I don't even know why. Because do I personally care for economics? No. But like I love well, do I personally care for money? No. But like I love clothes, I love shoes. And so you need money to buy. And so like, I've sort of put myself in this rabbit hole. Um Not to say I'm not enjoying having the money, right? Like I'm able to travel when I want to. I'm able to buy items that I wasn't able to previously buy. But I think things like teaching and stuff like when I was a teacher, that was more meaningful. Like it felt purposeful, even though it wasn't. I didn't feel like it was my specific purpose to be a teacher, but it felt purposeful for sure, though.
Hmm.
Like I was fulfilled in a way, but it was draining, of course, because of just like situations you had to see students in, and different things like that. Like it wasn't healthy mentally, but it was definitely meaningful, way more meaningful than this. I
Mm.
think everything I'd done before was way more meaningful than this. Um,
Do you have
so I'm just
time? Yeah, so, no, keep on.
no, you go ahead.
Do you have time? Because my first thought is like, I wonder if there, uh, like you could find meaning outside of work in the way that you found meaning in teaching. Like say like having a big. You ever heard of Big Brother, Big Sisters?
Yeah,
Something like that, or is that also not something that you necessarily are like? Yeah, I don't really vibe with those types of, like.
not even that I don't vibe with it. I think like even though I say like teaching stuff like that is meaningful and personal, I moved away from it for a specific reason. Like it just was not healthy mentally, right? Like I do care for a lot about people who like just growing up in like unfortunate situations, because of the unfairness of it. And so
Mm,
like it weighs a lot for me to be in that environment. And like after college, or even during like my senior year, like I was in that environment for like 4 to 5 years, and like I was burning I quickly noticed I was burning myself out. And so I did want to remove myself away from it. That's why like right now I'm not doing any kind of like community engagements or like sort of social justice work or whatever. Like even as far as like social media, like I unfollowed any kind of page that kind of project news of like just unfortunate events that happens around the world or whatever. Because I just want I just don't want to see that. Yeah, I mean, at the same time, I know like it's not on me to fix the world. Like it's not
mm,
on me to fix somebody's situation. Um, which is something that I think I held for a long time. That I thought like if somebody reached out for me to help, I need to be the one to provide that support or whatever. Like I'm glad I moved away from that, and became I say quote unquote a little bit more selfish in a way to sort of choose myself because I was just like even right now I'm a very very negative person. Like a lot of my thoughts, a lot of my writings and stuff like that is very very negative and just like pessimistic. And so I'm trying to grow away from that sort of a more optimistic not even ultimately, it's just like be more healthy mentally. And so I just needed to detach myself from that essentially.
Mm, I feel that. I feel that, and think that's like really important too. Is to kind of be selfish. Selfish is a bad word to use because it's like just having boundaries, you know, with like energetic boundaries with yourself and like with what you're engaged in, you know, like
Yeah.
um that kind of goes into my last question. Um if you could change, well, Trey's last question. um, if you could make one change to the world, actually, let's do this one first. There's two more. Uh as you've been
I
navig
like what that I like where that question was going though. Let's do that question
okay,
first.
bet. If you could make one change to the world, what would it be?
Like if I could make one change,
I'll say, and I'll tweak it to one up to three.
okay, the one I will make is like legit for people to just do whatever they want, like
Mm,
regardless of the consequence, right? Like, and of course, in that saying, right, like it's opening up to the idea of like just those very like obscure like things that people do, but like I'm talking about in the realm of like there are so many people who can be like great artists, or so many
mm,
people who can be like great motivational speakers, so many people who can probably just sweep a floor very fucking good. Like
yeah, facts.
there's so many people who can do like amazing things, but their talents are so belittled right now because of the way world view talent or skills and stuff like that. Like, and people just deter away from it. Like, if people could just detach themselves from whatever expectation society set and just do whatever the fuck they want, that'll be amazing. I think I'm more so speaking from a personal matter, like, because
No,
I
that
do nothing that like I want to do, but like I know like if I was to dive in that, like I'd probably be amazing, right? Like I don't know, it's like to just say fuck everything that it was this book I read in college. I'm being on another rant because I hated this. I hated this so much, right? So in college, freshman year of college, I took English like 102 or something like that. And we had to read this book called Monster, right? The book was basically around the idea of those that are deemed as taboo in society. Those that are not deemed a monster is like those who are um like middle-aged white men in a suit, right? That was the idea of like someone who is not a monster in society. Everybody else was deemed as a monster essentially. Like it was around the story of Frankenstein, but that's kind of like what the book was like referencing the idea that like if you are Hispanic, you're a monster. If you're black, you're a monster. If you are gay, you're a monster. Like those sort of like quote unquote not normal um characteristics in society was monsters essentially, right? And so we had to write a paper on our perspective of the book. And my paper was the fact that like if this singularity of a characteristic is deemed as normal, then maybe that's the monster in society, right? Like the monster in society
ooh.
is that like middle-aged white men in a suit, right? I thought I wrote a really fucking good paper. That fucking teacher gave me like a fucking it was like a very low C. Like it was like a
Oh.
71 something like that. Because of my fucking grammar, right? Like my grammar is not good, like grammatical like functions and stuff like that, like commas and periods and all of these other stuff because like, I went to a Title I school when I was like growing up.
What's the
Like
Title One school?
a Title I school is essentially like a school that has like very low resources, usually very low test grades, just because like it doesn't get much funding from like the city or the state because it's in like a community where like housing is just not as sufficient. Like it goes into the idea of like redlining. Those community where like black people was kind of pushed into or minorities kind of pushed into and like it wasn't like it was just like poverty surrounding that neighborhood. So like of course when it comes to that housing tax kind of gets funded into the school. But if there's not much housing tax or taxes in that community, then there's not much funding that's going to the school. And so those schools just have very low resources. Usually the teachers are like not as prestigious as other schools and stuff like that. And so to sum it all up, a Title I is just used for like a low performing school. Um, and so like like my grammar now is like way better, but like then it was just like very shy. I wasn't a kid who was expected to go to college and stuff like that. And so like, I had to learn along the way or whatever. But like he punished me for like my grammatical errors or whatever like that. I was like, did you even read the fucking paper?
Yeah.
Like it's about the message, not the grammar. And like that's why I really hate language because I'm like,
And
if it's
school.
yeah, like because I'm like we're literally missing the point of it all, right? Like let's listen to like the message and the writing. Like is you can understand what was written in this piece without any fucking commas and periods. Like
Mm,
especially if you're somebody who is like more sound grammatically, like no, like you can understand what a fucking period is supposed to go. Like
yeah.
you read text messages and stuff like that all day with no grammar, no grammatical functions in it at all. But okay, um, fuck, what was the question? Oh yeah, so like that monster in society, right? Like I feel like if everybody adopt the fact that like I'm okay with being that monster. I'm okay with being somebody who is not chasing six-figure salary. I'm okay with being somebody who, will use my body as art, right? Like tattoo my body, pierce my body, or whatever. Like those people who are seen so taboo in society, like being okay with being that monster. Like I feel like a lot of peace will come from that.
Mm.
I feel like that should change with society. Just that whole rant. What's the ending up to?
Bro, that I love that answer so much, and like is I agree. Like if there were to be one thing, that would be mine. And I wouldn't have even said that first before you hearing it, but like that is what I want to do in my life is like be fucking crazy and silly and express myself in a way that makes other people feel okay to do that. Because like I
Yeah,
have the privilege to do that, because of who I am, and other people don't. And that's like, yeah, it kind of ties into my performance in October, bro, is like what I'm trying to piece together in 18 minutes is basically just a full expression of myself. Um, and like by doing so, I have to not give two fucks what anyone receives it as. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so I'm excited, but even just talking about it, I got a little nervous just because I'm like, damn, I'm really
yeah,
gonna perform in front of people type shit. But like, and I would say my like if I were to change one thing other than that, like, because for me that is like individual, like I have to do that on my own, and everyone has to agree to do that. But if I were to like lift a structure system, it would be probably like the suppression of feminine energy, and like in one in two
no,
in
yeah,
manyfold, but like one that ties into your like creation and creativity is a feminine energy to me. And so like the suppression of femininity and like suppression of like females in particular, I think is doing so much harm to the earth because it's like it's man blocking women's love. And like even man and women are more, but masculine like energy blocking like the feminine love and expression of creativity and art and self-expression, like it goes in, it goes back into like the space stuff when I felt like the earth, the moon, and the sun, and then like the fundamental nature of stuff. Like to me, like a proton and an electron are like a plus and a minus, like binary code type of thing that gives the
mm,
structure, like the masculine energy, and then the neutron, the moon or the earth or the neutron, like is the third thing that allows for creativity to occur, and
yeah,
um so I just think suppressing that is like that's the reason we're here, is like that third aspect, our feminine aspect or art creation type thing. And so like to suppress that, I think lifting that on the earth, on planet Earth, would free up a lot of people, and people
yeah,
to be able to do what you were saying and express themselves, or like the art. So many people can be artists, poets, directors, creators, all that stuff. Like for me would be the most important or thing I would
no,
want to change.
no, yeah. I follow you. No, I feel that a lot. I've been writing a lot just about like the expression of love when it comes to like a man's so the dynamic of relationship and from a man's perspective. Like I've been writing a lot about that. Um, and this idea like we don't get that sort of like feminine love, right? Because like we hold this sort of hostage on like the idea of like masculinity and the idea of being able to provide or like just being that one that like I guess delivers essentially.
Mm.
which like in one of my writings I wrote like I would love to just be like the woman in a relationship. Like I want to be the person that get brought flowers and stuff like that. Like not really though, right?
I
Like
know
I
what
don't
you
think I
mean,
would
though.
yeah, like I don't think I necessarily care for flowers, but like the idea that like something thoughtful happened towards me, right? Like I'm not the one who is expected to do something thoughtful. But even just the idea of just like what is deemed feminine or masculine in general. I was always been a person who hated gender roles. Like it's been a lot of instances where like people, I guess, assume me to be gay or whatever because I express myself in a lot of feminine ways. Like I think me personally, I identify my expression as like androgynous, but like I think most people would just probably think I'm just masculine mostly. But like I think when I'm comfortable, I'm more androgynous and like my expressions physically. Not saying that I'm doing anything that's like very like quote unquote like feminine expressive, but like when I feel free, like I'm loose with my body or my I'm loose with like my physical expression. I think a lot of times like people like I remember I posted something on Instagram. It was just the way that I was standing. And I was like a little drunk that not even drunk, but I was drinking. So like I was on the influence and like like I was just comfortable with how I was standing. Like I posted it and like I don't know, it got just like a lot of mixed assumptions of like just me being gay. And like that's so weird to me though. Like
That, that's
it's
gay
like
to me. Like
yeah,
that they thought, you know what I mean? Like
like
that's
you see that
lame
as
is a better
something
word, but that's just stupid.
no
Like it's
no,
just
I'm following
stupid.
you though, right? Like, 'cause
Yeah.
like, what do you see in this? Because like my idea, right? Like, if you are somebody who is attractive to things that are quote unquote feminine, and like you see the way I'm standing, and you deem it as feminine, like I feel like you can like formulate that into a way that like you found that attractive, like in a way, right? Like what are we doing right now? Like, if it's not attractive to you, like you don't have to be concerned of it. Like
Mm,
if
mm,
it's not like anything that like provoked you in any way, like why does it matter? Like if
mm.
it provoked you in something some way, I'm not the one to question, right? Like
Facts.
because
That's
it's not
truth,
like
bro.
it's not like I'm out here just like flamboyant with my expressions. Of course not. But like like I don't know.
You're
I
not
don't want
up
to
here
get
like
too
touching dudes' shoulders, like showing actually homosexual tendencies. Like the way
yeah
you're
like
standing is not gay. Like that's not.
that's what, right like that's so weird to me. But it's just like I don't know. Social media is just like a strange platform to share on in general, though, which is not
Mm.
supposed to be. But
Facts, bro.
it's
That's kind
very
of what I've
strange
learned
platform.
is like when I just spew myself online, like it's not gonna be taken in the way that like I want it to be taken type shit. So like I've
Yeah.
learned this is kind of a separate point, but like learned the side I don't know, the pitfalls of like social media and expressing yourself on social media.
Mhm.
Cause but yeah.
No, I don't even think it's social media though, right? Like I think social media kind of made it like blunt or like
Mm,
put it in perspective. But like it's just the idea that like perception is just very unique to the individual. Like no
mm,
matter how close or no matter how far you are to relations to that person, like perceptions is a big thing. And like
mm.
the way you speak to somebody, you like you can say it sucks, but like I feel like it's almost inherent to try to be mindful of like the perception that they may take from it. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say like earlier when I was like when I said the statement like what made you feel special that God the old like Yahweh presented himself to you, right? Like I didn't want that to come off as offensive, so I had to make sure like I explain that, right? Like the perception that somebody from your delivery to somebody else is not it doesn't matter the intent behind that, right? Like
Mm.
it's the idea of like just being mindful that like this is another individual. Like I guess the concept of sunder, right? Like this person been through a lot of
What is
different
it, Sonder?
complex. Yeah,
What's that?
sunder. Just the
Sunder?
yeah. My definition may be very off, but like just the idea that like everybody that you cross paths with lives a complex life, right? And with
Mm.
that complex life comes just complex perception. And so like no matter what word I share, it can be the idea of like um oh, that's fat, right? Like it was a point in time where the word fat was like deemed for something that was like cool, but also it can be something that's derogatory. It's like you judging somebody based off their physical appearance, or like you coming for somebody's health. Like you just never know the perception of a word.
Mm.
I do love words a lot, and I love
Or
perceptions with
spells.
words. Yeah, like right, like they're like you trigger something and you don't even know it, right? Like it's just like the idea of like me casting something out there. Like I put a word out there and somebody can fall in love with it, somebody can hate it. Like you don't know what you just cast, but like it's powerful though, like
Mm.
super powerful.
We're magicians, bro.
Yeah.
Like we are. I view us like that. Um, no, I love everything you say. I don't even have anything to say because it's just true.
No, let me complete my rant real quick,
Yeah.
because something else just came up. But like even the idea of like those who are artists, right? Like when they paint, like do you know Mark Rothko?
No. Wait, is it Rothscoe?
Rothko.
Oh, I don't think so.
Mark Rothko, he's this artist. Like he literally like what he paint is nothing just like out of this world, right? Like he blends colors in a way that's like very, very expressive for some reason. And some people um receive that expression in so many different ways. But like when some people receive that expressions, they legit just cry from looking at his painting. And like it was
Mm.
like if you Google the guy, like and you look at his painting, it's literally just like a block of color. But for some reason, like that expression just casts something that triggers in people. Whether you just admire it a lot or like you just feel some kind of deep ingrained emotion from it, or like you just intentionally or just for some reason just cry. Like
Mm.
it's power, and it's power in sound and color, and like I don't think we recognize that enough. But that is my rant.
I love it. I agree with that. And that's cool. You know, I've lately, like in the past year, just cry. Like the only times I cry are when I love, like when I feel really deep love. And it might be from
Mm,
something my mom or dad says that's not quote unquote like positive, but I'm realizing they're loving me and like I'm just crying from like love. And it's funny you
mm,
say like when you had said that, like asked why Yahweh type shit, and then like had to jump in and make sure I knew that it wasn't coming at me type shit. It was funny because I was like, bro, I didn't even like. Now you saying it made me think of it that way, but like I never took it, that way. And that's why I
yeah,
love the point you make with like realizing other people are complex humans is something I'm learning is like how powerful words are and like being able to flow and like just express myself without fearing like the intent or whatever someone might take it, while also realizing like I do say a lot of shit that might be like too much like or something to
oh
someone.
yeah,
um but I forget where I was going. I think I was just affirming that like everything you said basically of like we're so complex we can't get in like assume someone else's experience of what I just did or said, because it takes us out of
yeah,
ourself in a way that's like just be you, and like if they express back to you, hey, that was not cool, all right, cool, and you keep going. But
right.
like yeah, that's something I've done a lot in my past, is saying like miscommunications for me were pretty like my pet peeve. So I would like go out of my way to ask someone later, like, hey, remember that combo type shit? And it's just like,
Yeah.
bro, you don't have to do that. Yeah.
Let me revert somewhat from what I said too, though, right? Because I do believe it's important to be able to just flow within conversation, like express yourself freely without having to consider the other emotions of another person. And I think those are the same concept of like those safe or brave spaces, right? Like if I'm around people that genuinely accepts me and I can just speak however I want to, like I should feel safe in those moments to flow in that conversation, say whatever I need to say how I want to say it,
Mm,
without the idea of like this may affect that person, right? Because even if it did, they also feel comfortable enough to explain like, oh, this felt this way to me, right?
mm,
Not in a way to where like I need to be apologetic, but in a way that like we're both freely expressing ourselves, and like that is fine, right?
mm,
Like it's fine to for me to invoke my or like project my emotions, you project your emotions, and like we don't need to feel apologetic about it,
mm,
right? Because like we are complex, we are different, we are separate, like and like we have our own expressions that we need to get out, because if we just keep those in, like y'all, like this physical body is already like it's already enough vessels for like just so many other things. And so to prison like emotions and words into it as well, bro, this shit will break. Like probably
Facts.
not physically though, but like bro, it'll break
Mentally,
and like
yeah,
yeah, like and when it breaks mentally, like dog, like
bro, I
that's
know.
that's yeah, like
It's not ideal. I feel that heavy, bro. I feel that heavy. You got any last thoughts? I gotta do some shit. And honestly, first I gotta piss, but then I gotta drop my car off and shit. But did you
last
have
thoughts. Oh,
anything you want to
oh,
say?
okay. I want to read something, right? This is something I wrote. I wrote it a while ago. Um, and it is not projecting on how I feel right now. But I thought the writing was really, really cool. I will say it is a little I guess I maybe should say trigger warning or something like that.
Nah, not on this podcast, bro. I mean, unless
Okay.
you're about to say a story of like sexual assault, then obviously like maybe be like, hey, content
No,
warning.
no, no,
But like
no.
if you're reading
I,
your writing, like you don't got a trigger warning your
I
writing.
yeah, no, I think the writing and kind of like projects like self harm or whatever, but like it was literally like so like the writing itself just came from like more so emotions than actual like physical harm. But like it's the idea of like people who go it's the idea of like mental health being invisible though. So it's not like I was like actually physically harming myself, but like the idea that like mental health is like invisible and nobody notices it. But it's called body language. It's very short. It's called body language. And so I'm just gonna read it. And so it says wait, I need to read it with some sort of cadence. Let me
Run it through, run it through. Hit a little practice.
okay. So it's called body language. I don't speak I don't speak much nowadays. I just carve my thoughts. Okay, body language. Take two. Take two. I don't speak much nowadays. Just carve my thoughts into my skin. Who knew a risk could talk? Risking it all using his knife like chalk. Is this what they meant by body language? Covering my words with clothes and using a smile like sign language, right? Because like one thing like Suicide Prevention Week was last week, so I wanted to share this, right? Like it's just this idea like you just honestly never know what people go through, right? Like, and people project themselves in a way that is very silent and not truthful. And it's very scary, right? Like, because it's easy to do that because we sort of like subliminally are forced to do that, right? Because like nobody wants negative or bad energy, but it's not negative or bad energy; it's pure energy, right? Like it's just this idea of like this is how I'm feeling, this is what I am in this moment, and so like those questions that people hate, the idea of like, oh, how was your day and stuff like that. I think most people hate it because they're just scared to answer it truthfully. But like if
Mm,
we answer those questions truthfully in those moments, like the impact that it can have, right? Not that everybody needs to know your truth or whatever the case may be, but like even if it was just to share it truthfully in the most like blunt way possible, like you don't have to be like oh yeah, I flipped this up once. It can just be like today is not great or
mm.
something along that lines, right? Like people if we use our words a little bit more honestly rather than in a
Hiding.
way of like yeah, hiding or just coding whatever we really have to say. Um it could be a little bit more powerful. That is my tribute to Suicide Prevention Week.
I love it. Do you know any sign language?
I do.
How are you?
So this is yeah. How are you? I don't know that.
That's
What was that?
how are you? But my
Oh,
mom
I
just
thought it
taught
was
me
just
that it might be my mom did this, but like it's probably that, but like deaf people
no.
might
So
just
it's just like one fist stays solid, and the other fist you kind of rub up and down. And
oh
you could just do this right because like those who are not like I guess native ASL speakers like those who are will just be able to understand that this is how are you because
yeah.
I'm not a native ASL so like I'm able to just like I can do that and it's fine. I know this is good and this is thank you.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so I know a little bit because some of the people that I work with are. Wait, what was that?
That's yes, no, I love you, Jesus. Something
I know
that's my
this is
name. That's my
See you
name.
later.
See, me and my sister always do this. Like if we're at dinner, like talking, and like we start talking about shit we don't want like family hear about, she'll just like
Mhm.
like later. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
my grandma's deaf, so like I should know ASL like fluently, but you might know more than me type shit. So like
No,
I want to
I
learn.
probably
That's why I
don't.
asked you. Like,
I've been learning very vaguely. Like I've just been like learning throughout the day to just have a conversation with people that work with that work Amazon as deaf. And so it's been very cool to like the smile that comes on their face with people that like who are like speakers or whatever. To like try to have a conversation with them. Like, bro, it brings joy to them, dog.
yeah, bro. I mean, imagine not like literally, I don't know the number, but probably 98% of the world not being able to communicate with you. And then like
Yeah,
having someone, especially someone who's like clearly learning, like to learn it to be able to speak to you, that like I can't imagine that, like a mute world. You know what I mean? Like sound is so
yeah,
much of like art and experience. Like that's also why I kind of want to learn like similar to you is like to be able to actually communicate with people that don't get a lot of people to communicate with. Like,
yeah, for sure. That shit dope.
all right, I gotta take a piss, and I'm gonna end the recording and then talk for a sec after like post podcast.
Bet that,
So
bet that.
I'm gonna